Welcome to Business Concern. The topic, hearing the unsaid. As with other human endeavors, managing a business consists of having critical conversations. The essence of effective group decision-making is having these conversations with those who have knowledge, expertise, and experience. A critical conversation is one where a meaningful exchange of information and opinion occurs. Now, that critical conversation is also likely to be an emotional and therefore difficult conversation. And unfortunately, everyday conventions of conversation and emotions of the moment often serve to divert and prevent critical conversations from taking place. Even over years of being in business together, many business owners have not had critical conversations. Or if they have, the conversations have gone badly. In many cases, despite prior failed attempts, owners can become aware of the basic skills of critical communication and facilitate critical conversations. If these problems of communication are significant, it is appropriate to consult a behavioral expert such as a psychologist. The most stressful moment of a difficult conversation is often the beginning, but it's also the moment of opportunity. Difficult conversations should be initiated from the perspective of the third story. The third story is the one a keen observer with no stake in the situation would tell. The third story is a description of the situation that rings true for both sides simultaneously. The third story recognizes that there may be differences between the parties without a judgment about who is perceived as right or whose view is perceived as appropriate. Most conversations can be initiated from the third story to include perspectives of both parties and invite joint exploration of advantageous future conduct. Difficult conversations often have an underlying theme. The what happened discussion. A direct discussion about what happened is to be avoided. This discussion invokes disagreement about what happened. The discussion starts with assumptions made regarding motivation and blame. Frequently, each party adopts the assumption, I'm right, you're wrong, I need to defend myself. One party will assume knowledge about the intentions of other parties when that knowledge cannot be had. When intentions are not understood, frequently they are supposed to be bad intentions. Assumptions about intentions derived from observed behavior frequently are incorrect. Now, talking about fault is similar to talking about what happened, except that it takes the assumption about what happened one step further in the wrong direction. Introducing fault evokes fears of punishment and insists on an either-or answer. Talking about fault is bound to produce disagreement, denial, and little learning, such that energy is diverted into defensive actions. Similarly, seeking to blame, a version of a default discussion, distracts the participants and prevents a dialogue concerning why things went wrong and what corrections might be appropriate in the future. The focus of a difficult conversation should be on the understanding of the contribution system causing the situation. Other than in extreme cases, almost every situation that gives rise to a conversation is the result of a joint contribution. Focusing on only one or the other of the contributors, which is a fault discussion, obscures rather than eliminates the system. Also, part of the critical conversation is the feelings discussion. The feelings discussion asks and answers questions about feelings. Critical conversations are difficult because they involve emotion. Engaging in a difficult conversation without talking about feelings may sometimes seem like a savings of time or a reduction of anxiety or maybe a way to avoid risks. But if feelings are at the core of the difficult conversation, what has been accomplished if feelings are not discussed? To be aware of feelings requires an acknowledgement of the identity concern of each owner. The identity concern results in one feeling confident and centered, or off-centered and anxious. 3 questions illustrate common identity concerns. Am I competent? Am I a good person? Am I worthy of love? For one who initiates a critical conversation, there needs to be an attitude of perceived curiosity and interest, keeping in mind the third-party approach and avoiding the what happened inquiry, focusing on joint contribution rather than fault. Show interest by asking questions and listening. Now, listening involves more than hearing the words spoken. It is perceiving that which is said and also that which is unsaid. For each owner, thinking about values and actions with respect to those values can help reduce the anxiety experienced during a difficult conversation and significantly strengthen an owner's foundation in its aftermath. To summarize, to have a successful critical conversation, start with the third story, the story an objective observer would tell. Do not ask, what happened? Do not talk about fault or assign blame. Focus on the joint contribution of the parties that created the situation. Each party should have the opportunity to express that party's views and feelings by sharing that party's story. Ask and answer questions about feelings. Each party should have examined that party's values to feel comfortable and balanced about that party's identity. Each party should explore the other party's perspective. Once each party's needs are known, ask, is there a way to satisfy the needs of all the parties? Most importantly, when in a critical conversation, think about what is not being said. Should there be a question asked about this void? Are there emotions that are being hidden? What would be the reasons for this obfuscation? Thoughtful questions can help with understanding what is not being said and why. That understanding may be the most valuable benefit of the conversation.